Welcome to the Heart-Led Business Show, where compassion meets commerce and leaders lead with love. Join your host, Tom Jackobs, as he delves into the insightful conversations with visionary business leaders who defy the status quo, putting humanity first and profit second. From heartfelt strategies to inspiring stories, this podcast is your compass in the world of conscious capitalism. So buckle up and let your heart guide your business journey.
Well, welcome back to another episode of the Heart-Led Business Show. Today, we are joined with a truly remarkable guest, Nikki Nicholas. Nikki isn't just any coach. She's a trailblazer in the realm of understanding the subconscious mind. If you've ever felt like there's an invisible force impeding your path to success, or if you've been wrestling with those nagging doubts and fears that seem to sabotage your every endeavor, then she is definitely the coach for you. So without further ado, let's dive into a conversation with Nikki Nicholas and embark on a journey of transformation and empowerment for the heart-led business. Welcome, Nikki. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here.
Awesome. So you are in Canada, is that correct?
Yes, I am. I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Yes, and it's been winter here, so it's been very cold.
And probably very dark,
It is,
too.
yes, very dark. We are seeing the light now, though. It's March, so very nice.
Nice.
The end is in sight.
Very cool. So tell me, what is your definition of a heart-led business?
I would say my definition is essentially coming from a place like approaching, clients or even just anyone you interact with in a way that is authentic, B is coming from a place of I guess warmth, of care, of empathy, of thoughtfulness, and essentially just kind of trying to put their needs first in all ways that you possibly can, while also still understanding not to, I guess, self-sabotage your own needs, because I did that for years as well, where it was more about people pleasing than anything. And, I'll get into the subconscious blocks around that. But essentially, just like everybody within themselves knows at any given point in time whether they are doing the right thing or the wrong thing for others and for themselves. And really just tuning into that from a heart-centered place and being aware of, am I legitimately helping this person? Even if they're not a client, even if it's a person you're just engaging with, interacting with, it's like, how can I help this person? How can I leave them better off than the way that they came to me, than I found them? How can I help them, even if it isn't about profit, like you say? Because it's ultimately about, caring for people and the outcome that they receive from the interaction that you have with them. Even if they can't necessarily, join a program or join coaching, it's about understanding that they are human beings and they're on, wherever they are in their journey, and just helping them in any way that you can, regardless of, whether they are actually a client or not. So I kind of stick to that mantra of, how can I help whoever is in front of me, regardless of anything else?
Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful and it's very, very well said. But how do we balance, that care and being, not quite people pleasing, but putting people first and putting their needs first, and then also running a business? Because at the end of the day, you got bills to pay, right?
Well, exactly. Totally. And so again, like going into that people pleasing, like for years, so I started doing life coaching in 2017. And for me, a lot of it was like, I would find people who, they were in a certain place in life where they couldn't necessarily afford. So I would give and give and give and give and give. But it would be my one-on-one time.
Would you do the F free?
Yes, exactly. Over and over and over. And I was in a corporate job at the time. So I was doing my life coaching part-time and getting into the self-sabotaging. It's like, well, you can give and give and give your one-on-one time as much as you can, and you can help that person. But essentially, it's not a balance of energy. It's not a balanced exchange. And so it was to my own detriment. And so I was staying in that corporate job because
Mm,
I was giving all of me away purely for free.
yeah.
And I wasn't building a business. I wasn't growing from that, because finances are a big part of it. And I realized that, I had to go inward and release any resistance I had to charging, look at why I wasn't charging, that kind of thing. But now I use different methods, different techniques in order to still help those people, like pre-recorded resources that I can give them instead of my one-on-one time, because that one-on-one time is very sacred. It takes a lot of time and energy and effort to build a business. And you need to really be aware of that balance so that you are doing good for you and for them. And I guess getting back into that heart-centered approach, it's like, yes, you are thinking about the other person, but you also have to be heart-centered, and you are a person. Like we all need to, grow. We all need to get to where we want to be. And that exchange has to include yourself.
Yeah.
And so having that heart-centered thought and thinking towards yourself and what will propel you forward as well. So you're not self-sabotaging, essentially.
And
Yeah.
looking back too at those the F clients, the free ones, um, would you say that their results were okay, good, great, or not that great because they weren't investing anything in it either?
So I have heard people say that if they don't invest, then they won't get the result. I personally have not found that.
Cool.
Although, I have found that people are more committed
Mm.
to progressing if they have paid. So it's not that I haven't gotten results with the free, because like, yeah, I wouldn't have done it if that were the case. But essentially it's about that balance. It's about making sure that, yeah, that you're both getting something out of the exchange. And if, for example, for me, when it comes to the last year in business, I did a bunch of business coaching. So I had a business coach. I had hired a business coach. I actually hired two. And when I had to hand over that chunk of money, I felt within me, like I felt this resistance, but I also, as soon as I did it, I felt this level up of, I am committed. I am 100% in. And then you feel that pull, like money is such a catalyst for growth. And so, like, getting back to the free clients, it's not that they didn't receive growth. It's not that it didn't work. It's not that they didn't, have benefit from what was being done. But that commitment level really sticks you to the path and prioritizes it, because it's like, okay, I don't want to throw money
Yeah.
down the drain, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, there's two sides of the coin. It's like, yes, they got growth, but I feel like the long-term extent of the growth would have been greater had they paid,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said as well about the balance of energy, because that's really kind of a very beautiful statement to make, because there does need to be that balance between client and practitioner, and I just love what you said with that, with the balance of energy. That's cool.
Yeah.
What inspired you? Tell me your story. What inspired you to leave the corporate job and go into life coaching?
Yes. Yeah. So I have been studying the subconscious mind since 2007, obsessively. Like, one of those things where I wake up in the morning and that's all I want to do, like research, research, research. Well, now it's more about focusing on, doing the processes and helping clients and people past what their issues. But I actually got into it via Tony Robbins. So I would listen to business and entrepreneurial type Tony Robbins books. And then he mentioned neurolinguistic programming. And then I dove into that world and just took course after course after course after course after course, which also has hypnotherapy encompassed in those courses as well. And so just understanding the nuances and how the nuances of the subconscious mind and how we do things internally, like the pictures we create, the feelings that we have, different associations, whether positive or negative. That is how we do everything in life. Is we go towards what makes us feel good, we go away from what makes us feel bad. And just understanding the ways and the mechanisms internally in how we do those things plays a big role in understanding yourself and understanding others and why we all make the choices that we make in life. So I was studying that up until 2017, then took it in person. My first in-person, because I had always done online courses, my first in-person NLP course, which was unbelievable. Because essentially the entire course was, our instructor was putting us through trance and doing hypnotherapy and NLP on us the whole time. And the way I like to say it is, it's almost like, imagine you have alignment in your consciousness. So there's your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. And then suddenly after this course, it's like the entire course, the instructor was talking to my subconscious mind going, okay, well, you just make these little tweaks in life, and as that happened, my subconscious mind, I like to say it as, this is the conscious mind, this is the subconscious mind. It's like my subconscious mind suddenly went over here and it's like, okay, this is the life you're going to live now. And my conscious mind was like, oh my God, what just happened? Like the ground was just ripped out from beneath me. And so I had to gradually catch up mentally at a conscious level, awareness of what had taken place. So essentially how that happened was, I was in a long-term relationship. I was in the corporate job. I was hanging out with all, high school friends. I had my day-to-day as it was, living in a certain place. And then suddenly I realized everything needs to change because there are too many fears that I'm not going into. And so I went into all of those fears, ended all of those things or shifted all of those things and did a complete 180 of my life. And it was terrifying. Like I had realized, I had realized that there were too many concessions I was making in life purely based on fear of being alone, fear of moving into the unknown. I had the security and the safety of that corporate job. It was very well paying, but I entered that job because it was well paying. And every single day it was like soul sucking. Like, even though I enjoyed what I did, I wasn't fulfilled and I couldn't figure out why. And so, like, at the back of my mind, I was always like, thinking about NLP, thinking about all these things, the entrepreneurial side of things. So that was always there. And then after work, I would spend all of my time like doing entrepreneurial type stuff. And so eventually, from this course specifically, so one of the things that my subconscious mind realized was, hey, you're in the wrong place in life, shift it. And so I did. So my conscious mind caught up and I shifted everything and totally changed my entire life. I actually ended up spending a year and a half going internal, and I kind of like to talk about it like I'm a monk on a mountaintop. I was just meditating for 10 plus hours a day for a year and a half to go into the subconscious parts of me that I needed to look at and find the certain subconscious blocks to release them. And so a big part of that was leaving the corporate world and then becoming, I say, nothing and no one, getting into like monk on a mountaintop type thing. And being okay with that and being okay with the judgment of that, because going into something new, you're going to have judgment and fear and blah, blah, blah. But really just going into all of those difficult emotions. And then after that, it's like, okay, game on. Now it's time to actually do it. And 2023, my partner and I took the leap into doing this full time, which was terrifying, but also very exciting. Yeah. And so just
what a wild ride.
Yeah, it was definitely a wild ride, and it still is, to be honest. Like, I'm learning so much every single day. Yeah. It's just mind blowing. Yeah.
So shifting from corporate, steady paycheck, all that good stuff to business ownership, like talk about jumping off without a net. That's amazing.
Totally.
But it was a gradual shift, though. It wasn't like overnight. It was just going right into business coaching.
Yeah. Into the coaching. Well, so we had found a bit, I don't know if I can even call the first one a business coach. To be honest, it was not the best in hindsight. We took this like course. It was about how to grow online. And you'll probably hear the same story from a lot of people, is that it wasn't ideal. It didn't give us what we needed. It was using antiquated methods of like, go on YouTube, post and pray. And we're like, well, this isn't working. Like, it's maybe in 2007 or something, but not here. Or just strategies that don't actually get you far.
Yeah.
So then a few months went by, then we got another business coach and he was much, much better. And since then we've been doing very well and have had steady clients and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, it was very, like we jumped in for the full time. But it was gradual in terms of I had started doing life coaching in 2017
Right.
with the F word mostly.
Yeah.
Um, and then gradually a lot of it for me also was building up my confidence of, I can do this and what I'm doing is working. And, I'm the kind of person I've always kind of been perfectionistic. And so just making sure that, what I do will work and feeling certain about that, because if someone's paying me, then I want to make sure that I, provide the results that I'm promising essentially.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So what have been some of the struggles or pleasant surprises that have happened from having a heart-centered approach to business versus just kind of just a profit mentality?
So I would say, honestly, the connection, like even just reaching out to people and like, for example, chatting with people on Facebook. I engage quite often on Facebook with people who are in my network. And oftentimes we'll just have chats. And if anything comes up that they need, it's like, oh, I have this free resource. Here you go. And it helps them pass something. And that's nice. So I would say just the connections that you build, that's really, really big for me, because I'm a very I love deep conversation and stuff. And I find that being that way, you can, build really good connections. So yeah, I would say the connection thing. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that would be like a pleasant surprise.
And it's all virtual too, right?
I mean,
like the connections
it's
are
all virtual.
like text messaging or messaging back and forth.
Yeah, and even same with client sessions as
Okay.
well. Yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest thing about a pleasant surprise. And I just enjoy what I do so much. And I mean that's not necessarily because it's heart-centered, but it's just when you are doing what you love, which I suppose is a form of heart-centered. Um, like again, I was in a corporate job and felt unfulfilled the entire time. Even though I liked what I did, I was good at what I did, I didn't feel, yeah, that fulfillment at a deep, deep level. Whereas when I get people past things that they've been struggling with for years and years, or their almost their entire lives, it's like that is where I feel heart is like that's my passion is just that realization that I've helped somebody pass something that they don't have to deal with anymore. They don't have to worry about anymore. So it's really about people for me, I guess, when it comes down to it, is all the heart-centered stuff is just
Yeah.
people.
Oh, that's cool. Now, what about some unexpected surprises that were not so pleasant, or the
Oh, well, the struggles. So owning a business, you definitely have struggles. Like I said, like going into the negative emotions essentially is like, again, like you said, having that steady paycheck, that was my security. And I'm not going to get into the specifics of this, but there's actually certain ways that you can understand what matters more to you in a value basis. So like in terms of how I coach people. And for me, security was number one. Security, certainty, all that, which is what made me take so long to actually take that leap. So the reason for that is because I had fear of not having enough money, fear of being seen, fear of all the work that it would take, and all the difficulty in like creating content, for example. Like that has been a challenge for me. So going into all those things, I guess I knew that I would have to, which is what took me so long to get into it. But as it actually happened, like rubber hits the road and you're like, okay, yeah, I definitely feel these emotions. I'm just glad that I know how to go into them and release them. It makes it a lot easier. But I would say probably one of the challenges is just the level of emotion that comes up, because it really is you're relying on you. I mean, myself and my partner, but I'm sure, as you know, it's like you can't call IT.
Right.
You can't, right? Like in corporate, I had a very good relationship with my IT department, and that was amazing. But all we have here is basically YouTube and Google, and they're not ideal when you have a problem you need resolved, because oftentimes, people have a different agenda, like, oh, here, I want to sell you this or this or this. So you have to take what they say with a grain of salt. So I would say the surprises are just, probably the biggest one is like overcoming the emotions.
Wow. Yeah.
And then overcoming tech challenges and keeping going no matter what, because you are relying on you. And it's like, once you decide to take that leap and do it, it's like you're doing it. Yeah. Like there's no turning back now kind of thing. So just follow through.
Yeah. So what does keep you going? Like, do you have a daily mantra that you do, or a routine that just reminds you of why you do what you do?
For me, I don't have anything like that, but that's because I am so internally driven to grow. That's my like biggest thing at this point is growth. It's like daily, like all day, every day. Like even it was my birthday a few weeks ago, and I worked on my birthday. Like when I woke up, my partner Travis, he's like, we can do anything you want to do today. I'm like, I actually want to work. And I was like, this is the first time in my life I've actually wanted to do that. I didn't have as much pressure I was putting on myself, because it's like I get to kind of like a weekend where it's like you don't have the strict, regimen, whatever. Yeah. But I just, like I said, ever since 2007, when I learned about the subconscious mind and all that kind of stuff, it's like every waking moment of every day. That's how you know you're meant to do something, is because every moment of every day, it's like, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to learn more. I want to study. I want to, and help people through stuff. And just, so I just really love what I do. So it just comes naturally. So routine wise, I don't know if I have any specific routines. Like definitely meditating. I meditate very, very, very often, very frequently. But aside from that, and then just being very mindful of taking the time to relax, because I don't want to put too much pressure, and because you can do that in a business as well, because it's all on you. Is like, I got to do this, but just being mindful of that and not going to the extreme in that regard, I suppose.
Well, you can definitely tell your passion behind, or the passion in your business, because it just comes through in your personality and your voice. So you can
Thank you.
completely see that alignment between head and heart. And that's awesome. Very cool.
Thank you.
Nikki, how can people find you and learn a little bit more about what you do if they're interested?
So they can find me on my website. So it's nikkinicholas.com, NIKKINICHOLAS.com. Also on Facebook. That is where I frequent the most. So just add me as a friend, or probably add me as a friend before shooting me a message. But then I get back to people pretty quickly. I try to be on there as often as I can. Those are my main two platforms at this point, or just email info@nikkinicholas.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I think we're going to include all that stuff in the show notes, but there's also a gift that you wanted to give the audience as well.
Yeah. For sure. So essentially, it is kind of like a mini training where I take people through what a subconscious block is, how it could be holding them back in life, where it comes from, and how they can essentially find the subconscious blocks within themselves. So find, like in a given situation, what is, like you say, invisibly stopping them. And there is a very specific way that I go about showing people how to find it, and they can pinpoint it like that, doing these specific techniques. So very powerful if they want to kind of understand, why am I not doing the things that I want to do, or why am I doing too much of the things I don't want to do? So so that there will be a link to that in the show notes too.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. And just a reminder to all the listeners and viewers out there, if you could just give it a good rating and review, that helps spread the word and help more heart-led business owners find the show and get that advice and hear the stories of other heart-led business owners. So please hit that rating and review on your favorite podcast application, whether that be Spotify or Apple, or I don't think there's any other ones out there anyway.
Thank you so much for having me on too. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you, Nikki.
You've been listening to the Heart-Led Business Show, hosted by Tom Jackobs. Join us next time for another inspiring journey into the heart of business.